What is good, my ghouls and goblins? Welcome back to another live episode of the Reely Scared podcast. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. What's going on over there, Connor?
I was having some fun. I'm kind of handcuffed to my chair right now. Might have to do the old degloving to get out of this one.
How could this have happened?
I don't know.
Let this be a warning to all of you. Never get horny.
Yeah.
Or else.
Literally, if you get horny, chances are you're going to have to do some fucked up shit to your hand.
At least you look good doing it. I love the glasses.
Thank you.
You look great down there. I hope by the end of the show you'll be able to get free, but by the same token, at least you're there so you can do the show and you can continue to do the show every single Thursday without fail because you at least are exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, as long as I have my face and my voice, I can do the podcast.
Yeah, you don't need hands. You don't need hands unless you're sipping on the Beer Wolf. I got him back here today. I love this stuff. I'm feeling good. I'm sorry you're not having the best of times because I'm having a good day.
I'll figure it out.
I'm having a good day. I'm in a great mood. Man, it's so beautiful out here. I got the windows open. Let me know if you can literally hear the birds chirping because maybe I'll close the window because they're chirping up a storm out there. But I'm feeling great. I'm sipping on the Beer Wolf. I got a new candle burning in the background. Spiced apple toddy. Hello. Great vibes over here. I'm having a great time. Hands free. So I'm excited about this episode. We've got a great guest. If you haven't watched the show before, this is the horror movie show in which we're joined by a special guest every single week who picks out one horror movie that we'll discuss at length. Could be anything. And tonight we're joined by the great gold leader of the Finstock Exchange movie trivia Schmoedown fame, Evan Bushkar, also a filmmaker and podcast host of, let's see, No One's Watching Anywhere. Nobody's watching anyway. I should know that prior to bringing him in. He'll clarify for me. We'll bring him in. Before we do, you know what we got to say. We got to let you know. Best way to support the show. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to us, like us on whichever platform you are enjoying at this present moment. Or if you listen after the fact, be sure to follow us and leave a little, what's that, Connor? What should they leave for us?
A little cutie.
Just a little cutie. Just a little cute review. Doesn't have to be anything too big. Doesn't have to be the length of a Stephen King novel. Just a little note that shows your appreciation. On Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, whichever, wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Go ahead and give us a little bit of love. And of course, we are streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So be sure to follow, subscribe, like, whatever you can do on that platform to show us that you're hanging out and listening along. I'm so happy he's here. Suge Knight 323 in the chat. This man has been very aggressive towards me lately. He's been showing me some harsh vibes, but here he is. I know it's all in good fun. He's here to enjoy the show. He's facing his fears tonight. So thank you for joining us, Suge. You're one of the real ones. Let's bring our man in here. I'm so excited that he's joining us. Ghouls and goblins, put your hands together, unless, of course, they are cuffed to furniture and you are held prisoner in your own home. But do what you can. Give a wholehearted greeting to my man, the gold leader, Evan Bushkar.
Hello. It's me. It's me.
How are you,
the gold
Evan?
leader himself.
Thank
Hello.
you for joining us. How's your night going?
It's going really well. I actually just finished my rewatch of Gerald's Game like an hour ago, I guess. So I'm coming off fresh. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys?
Terrific. I mean, I'm doing well. I can't speak for this.
Yeah, I've been in better positions, but I'm doing good. I'm here.
I really hope you don't have to go through with the degloving shit, but you know, it looks like you got it under control for now. Just don't lose circulation.
Yeah.
If you want to see Connor Breedlove go through with the degloving, I'm gonna need you to hit that mother effing like button.
Yo, if you get 100 Streamlabs within the hour, no.
10,000 likes and this man's glove is coming off live on the show. We need your support in order to do it. Evan, right off the bat, let me ask, what was the title? What's the title of your show that I just utterly butchered?
You got you got it right halfway. It's Nobody's Watching Anyway. It's just me and my brother. We're just dicking around, talking about whatever. and it's on Facebook because we're outdated, and we haven't broadcasted anywhere else yet. But go look up on Facebook. Nobody's watching anyway. We do like a bi-monthly show, just like twice a month. But
beautiful.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching anyway over on Facebook. There it is.
Yeah, you got
there it is. It why would you do research before your own podcast?
No, yeah, there's no need. I'll tell you everything you need to know. You don't need to do anything.
Thanks for coming on, man. I've been looking forward to this one, and in the respect that I've been looking forward to having you on, not in the respect that I've been utterly looking forward to watching Gerald's Game again. Not because it's a bad movie; it's a great movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, this one gives me the willies, and not many do these days. And it's even kind of worse when you know what you're going into. The first time I watched it, not so bad because it was all a surprise. But going back in, just pit in my stomach the entire time.
Yeah,
it's gross.
It's a yucky one.
Yeah, it certainly is.
What I always like to do before we get started and really dive into the film, which again is Gerald's Game, directed by Mike Flanagan. When prompted with the question, pick a horror movie or, which one would you like to talk about? Why was Gerald's Game the one that came to mind?
I just wanted to make you squirm. That's all it was. No, I will go to my dying breath with my appreciation, my love for Mike Flanagan. I think he is one of the most talented directors working in horror today. I am a huge fan of Haunting of Hill House. I love that miniseries so much. So I chose Gerald's Game because it was basically as close as I could get to Hill House without being Hill House. So, and all of his movies are very emotional, and I think that's what makes these horror movies is ones that make you think and that make you sad at the same time. So I chose Gerald's Game. It's a beautiful trauma story. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Flanagan's definitely become one of the pioneer horror movie filmmakers, I would say, of the last sort of 10, maybe not even 10 years. I feel like his kind of come up has happened quite rapidly to now being kind of that horror movie household name, and really has become the go-to Stephen King guy.
Yeah,
of all
that's
things.
true. His adaptations have been incredible. Granted, I've not read a single Stephen King book, but they're thick books. But his adaptations are incredible, at least. So
yeah, Mike Flanagan is just amazing. What's so funny, dude? I'm trying to talk about Mike Flanagan.
Sorry, go on.
Since I saw Oculus in theaters, I have just been like, I need to watch everything this guy touches.
Right.
He's just so good, and his character work is just brilliant. Because he doesn't sacrifice any scares. He just knows how to balance the scares and building up his characters. And he is like the go-to for Stephen King now.
Yeah, it's true.
It's work.
He makes a lot of his stories. You'll see, like whether it's Dr. Sleep, Hill House, or they're not his stories, but the work he touches, it's all about childhood trauma, and I love the consistency of that because there's something about the way he taps into that kind of emotional core that just hits the nail on the head every time for me. Even with Oculus was the same way. That's a painful ass movie, but it's great. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, and even if these are adapted screenplays, there's still something to be said for what he recognizes in the material and what he brings to it, because there are more Stephen King adaptations than there are of any other writer in history. I would have to think, even including things like Shakespeare at this point. It's like most, if not all, Stephen King stories have been adapted to series, movies. Some have been made twice over, and not all good by a long shot.
Right, sure.
Totally. It is not an automatic dunk just to pick up a Stephen King book and say, I'm going to make this. You can totally fall flat and fail in that endeavor. And that Flanagan's able to do it so consistently and seems like raises the bar on those adaptations all the time. I'm glad Waffles is getting in the chair. If you're not going to get in the chair, I'm glad somebody.
You're a visitor.
You've done this.
I'm pretty sure he's hungry. He might start gnawing on me.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the The rabid dog.
Cats are more likely. Cats are more likely, as I understand, to eat their owners than dogs are. So,
my wife told me this. I don't know if it's true. I've heard that it's like within 24 hours of your death, a cat would start eating you. But it's like I think 3 or 4 days for a dog, something like that.
That dude is. It'll be 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
He's like, he's not moving in 5 minutes. Yeah. I'm gonna start nibbling.
He's consciously making an effort even when you're alive.
Yeah, he can't wait. He is chomping at you to get at you there. And if you want to see Connor get eaten by a cat, I need you to go ahead and follow on Twitch real fast.
Hit that like button, everybody. No.
Yeah, we don't give away this kind of stuff for free. Help us out here. Flanagan, though, we've talked about him. We've never covered one of his films explicitly. Right. We did an episode last year where we talked about all of Bly Manor in one go, and that was also kind of where we came to is like he finds the emotional through line, and sometimes it's there in the material already, sometimes it's something he puts together on his own, but he recognizes the potential for it in the story and has a real gift for helping you care about the characters at the center of a horror story, which I don't know always happens. And a lot of times it feels like characters in a horror story are just fodder for the threat in it. That's you sit down and watch a horror movie, you want to see the people die, you want to see the blood, you want to see the guts, and so the characters are they're sacrificial in that way, and they don't have as much depth as they might in a standard drama or something like that. But Flanagan manages to find both and actually makes them even scarier because now there's somebody you really care about at the middle of it, and you don't want to see something bad happen to them. And I think this is a beautiful example of really getting in the character's head and really feeling the utter dread that they're experiencing through the whole story.
Sure. Absolutely. No, that's the thing. Like I said, with the trauma kind of aspect of everything, that is very, very present here. I think there are all these little hints in the beginning of I forget the only reason I remember Gerald's name is the fact that his name is in the title. What is Carla Gugino's character's name? Jesse. Yeah. Okay, that's right. Okay. Jesse, like the little interactions she has with Gerald throughout the movie, like before he dies. That's everyone knows that. Before he dies,
full spoilers.
Yeah, full spoilers. Yeah. But there's a lot to talk about in this movie, so I appreciate that. But there's little moments where like that kind of comes to the forefront, like when he is being more forceful and she's like, I will not call you daddy. Like, do not make me call you daddy. Like shit like that. Like that is so present in the work as a whole. So I very much appreciate that with this one.
Yeah, and getting it. I mean, you spend basically the entire movie in her head. There's not a scene that happens which she doesn't have full agency in. She's always there. You're only seeing it through her perspective and having to even navigate her own repressed memories. So you really, really come to care for her on a very deep level, which is powerful. And when we talk about the anxiety of going back into this movie a second time, yes, a lot of that does have to do with how graphic a particular scene is.
Sure.
And we'll obviously spend a lot of time in that scene, I think. But I forgot, honestly, when I got about 15 minutes in, I forgot, man, this whole thing is a crucible. It is an intense journey you've got to go through, even just emotionally. It really puts that pit in your stomach, like as if you're going over the hill for the first time. And really has you just kind of bracing for impact the entire time.
Sure.
Which difficult to do, especially in a story that ostensibly has 3 or 4 characters tops, and
not very many at all.
I mean Gerald, what you see, it's still Bruce Greenwood, but he's not even really playing Gerald anymore. Now he's just playing a part of Jesse's psyche at that point. It's this weird devil on your shoulder version of Gerald, though. For all intents and purposes, also doesn't seem like a great guy either. We very quickly figure out.
Sure.
And Carla Gugino, I mean, what a powerhouse performance she has to give in this. She's it all rests on her shoulders to tell this story as like the character of the film. And the journey you go on with her, it's really immersive. It really, the whole time I just felt anxiety. This whole film.
Oh yeah, I think it has. So obviously, there's there's little moments like the hand scene that like I said, we'll get into that. But like, there's genuinely like you said, pity your stomach kind of moments in this movie, where just like stuff with the Moonlight Man and everything, like these little tiny bits that just bring you to this whole other level of terror. Like you feel powerless. You feel every bit as powerless as Jesse does in the movie. And it's a great, the setup for it is genius. Like the thing with these little pieces that they put in place, like, Gerald puts the glass on the shelf above her. All these things clicking into place. Like, it's really good storytelling. Yeah, I respect it from a filmmaking perspective a lot of the time too. But yeah.
Yeah, it does a really terrific job of setting up everything that's going to pay off later in the movie. Nothing is done haphazardly. It's anything that's going to come back later in the film, make sure to hint at it in the first act, so everything feels earned. The only one I get hung up with is she didn't shut the damn door. I was like, why'd you leave that door open? I know you're in a nice part of town, but leave that door open and you don't let the scary giant and the freaking rabid dog in later. At least that'll make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, the dog causes a lot of grief.
The
door shutting is step one.
The movie also sets up Mike Flanagan's future projects. It's on the top shelf. There's a book of Midnight Mass, which... Oh,
okay. I don't know if I realized that, actually.
Yeah.
Do you know... Okay, real quick. Does that have a release date yet? Do we know when that's coming out?
If we still did segments on horror movie news, we would totally know right off the top of the head.
I'm just not sure.
I think they just wrapped production.
Production
on it
recently, so probably next year.
Sure.
Which also fascinating about Midnight Mass. Maybe Connor, you were already heading to this, but that's the title. I guess that the title of the book that the main character from Hush is writing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit!
So there's this whole weird self-referential thing going on where it's like she's reading the book from Hush, but that book's being that fictional book is being adapted into another show for Netflix. Like, he very much like Stephen King, now also making his own weird self-contained universe.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a King fan, so I got to think that probably has something to do with it.
Gerald referenced Cujo too,
yeah, which makes you go, okay, so Cujo like is a book in this universe too, like you always that's all the Marvel and things like that have now wired our brains, so we're trying to figure out the universes, the continuities. But King's like the original master of that too, with all of his books and the Dark Tower and things like that, and how all those cross over and reference each other, and The Stand and things like that. So he's kind of the original conjoined universe master. This movie has what I think is also brilliant, a really simple setup, and that you tell somebody about it and they just immediately get it. You're like, this woman's handcuffed to the bed, her husband dies, and she's in the middle of nowhere, and everybody just goes, it's
a great hook.
Oh,
for real. It's I thought, I was kind of concerned going into it the first time I saw it too, because I was like, is the entire movie just her by herself trying to figure this out? Because I feel like they're gonna have a hard time keeping the steam up with that. But they find a really good way of, like you said, the devil on your shoulder kind of thing, where there is part of herself and then part of Gerald, or as she sees Gerald, guiding her through everything. So structurally, it's incredible that way. Like it's super fucking entertaining. As bad as that sounds for as traumatic of a story as it is, it's a very entertaining movie. So yeah, they kept it up. They kept it up very well.
And my man Chris Anthony Lopez coming through in the chat. No clear date on Midnight Mass, but presumably the fourth quarter of this year. So I would. They were at production, so got to be coming out this year. I would think it's Netflix or two, right? So it's like they turn around on that stuff is real fast. They get their stuff out. I can't. I'm definitely in the bag on Flanagan for life at this point. Like, his name is automatic attention and interest on my end.
Yeah,
I've never been displeased with his work at any point. So
which is very difficult to find, especially in horror, which can be a very sort of fickle subgenre. This guy knocks it out of the park every single time.
Yeah, and he takes, because this was considered like unfilmable. For a while. And same with Dr. Sleep. Nobody wanted to touch that. Like, how are we going to do Dr. Sleep?
Sure.
and he killed both of them.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do both of these that people are afraid to touch, and I'm going to make them amazing. And he succeeds at that. He's just brilliant.
Oh yeah, truly.
And you think about, and obviously I'm sure one day we'll do a Dr. Sleep episode. I think it's inevitable. Somebody will pick that movie, and I look forward to when they do. But when you think about the baked in pressure that comes with that of not only adapting another Stephen King novel, but you're going to also indirectly make a sequel to like one of the most iconic, beloved, and like immortal horror movies ever made. They were like afraid to even market it as a Shining sequel because they just didn't know what to do with it. And so like no one saw it, unfortunately, but it's like this brilliant adaptation while like being a sequel to the Kubrick movie, but like doing its own thing at the same time, like taking risks with it too. And I don't envy anybody in that position to like have to live up to the legacy of something that it just is untouched, since the 80s.
Especially when like a lot of like you said, a lot of Stephen King adaptations don't really bode well critically a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a risky field in general. So to adapt a work that people feel is unadaptable is very risky, but he manages to pull it off every time. And so we'll see if he keeps that up. I believe he will, but
yeah.
Who knows?
It's hard to imagine why people thought it would be unfilmable, though.
Sure.
I mean, at the heart of it is a simple story. Why do you think it was considered unfilmable?
I guess because it was probably like most of it happening in her head, like most of the interactions being mental more than literal. But that's a really easy workaround with having them being present in the room. Mm-hmm. I think is a great get around for that. But again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how it works in the book, but I imagine it's very similar.
I'd be curious to know whether that sort of plot device is in there. Her actually manifesting both a version of herself who's more confident and is trying to get her out of that room, and then this sort of even further villainous version of Gerald, who's like sometimes on her side, but other times isn't. Right. And because I actually forgot that mechanic even existed in the movie at all. When I came back, for some reason, I'd only seen this one time. Yeah. This has been a tough one for me to even like work up the courage to revisit. Sure. But we did it now. I forgot about the whole altogether. I just remembered it as her being there. I remember the flashback scenes, but I just remembered it as her being there. So I would be curious to know if because I haven't read it either. I don't know if Stephen King had that in the book from the start, because then I could see why somebody would think it'd be hard to sell, because like maybe it is just all inner monologue. You could do that with the book, make it first person, and you can live in their head the entire time. I would be curious to know whether that is in there from the start or if that's a Flanagan thing, but it really does make the movie pop, and she's stuck there by herself, and it's this very clever way of giving her two characters to talk to, even though she's really just there by herself the entire time. It makes it play a lot easier on the screen. It makes it feel like a stage play almost to me.
I was thinking that too. Like the whole time I was like, oh, this will be fucking sweet on stage. But that it's another thing. It's really funny too, which is kind of weird. Like there are parts of it with like Bruce Greenwood specifically. His performance, like the way he cracks jokes and stuff. Like there's the joke that Jesse says, like, "Oh, you're about to die for Gerald's 5 inches." Like shit like that is just they actually elevate it with comedy weirdly, with it being as serious as it is, but it flows so well that way. Like the balance of tones. So yeah, you get that.
That's true. Like a lot of unexpected levity does kind of come through in their interactions, because otherwise it's nowhere to be found in that story. Right. Dire circumstances mixed with repressed memories of an abusive childhood, and then like some weird, surreal, nightmarish stuff to cap it off, and very, very intense gore and violence. Like there's just there's no room to really breathe in that. And having these weird, snarky, like lovers quarrel things happening over her as she's like falling asleep, dehydrated, hallucinating. Like it does add this weird humorous, I would by no means say it's a funny movie, but it does give you room to breathe a little bit. Sure. And you need that, because even with it, the entire time I was like white knuckling it through this movie, partly because I knew where we were going to end up, but even still like realizing on the second watch going, wow, this whole thing actually is really goddamn tense from start to finish.
It also pulled off something that I find generally unachievable, especially with Flanagan's work, is that it made Henry Thomas unlikable. I love Henry Thomas's performances in Flanagan's work. I think he does like a fucking perfect job in Hill House. I think that's the best performance in that show, I believe. But they found a way to make him just despicable and upsetting, and his performance in this movie too was incredible. But yeah,
and we should talk about how Mike Flanagan uses the same cast in pretty much all of his work.
Sure.
You see a few of the recurring actors in this, so it's just cool that he'll still like stay in that wheelhouse with people he's familiar with. Because whenever I even watching this again, I haven't seen it in a while. But watching it again, I was like, oh, they're in this, they're in that.
Right. Also, I just remembered that you're still handcuffed to the chair. It just cracks me up.
Maybe what if you're not even doing the show right now, and this, Evan and I are just these animations for you to help talk you through this process, and Waffles has almost got your big toe gnawed off at this point.
He's got past trauma that he's working through.
Yeah.
Are you gonna help me get out of this, or are you gonna like speak in riddles so I can like figure this out?
Maybe by the end we'll have learned enough lessons along the way that you'll like figure out what you need to do. If you got any ideas for what Connor needs to do, go ahead and leave a comment on the video. Even if you're not watching live, he might still be there by the time you watch it. So just something to think about. Help a homie out. I want to talk about Bruce Greenwood a little bit because dude is a jacked silver fox in this movie.
Yes, he really is, man. He's like cut.
Yeah. I don't know if Bruce Greenwood's like just always in the business of, looking good like that. If they're like, hey, here's the script. You spend 75% of it walking around in your briefs. And he's like, well, I'm not going to look like no chump when I do that. I'm hitting the Bowflex before we shoot Gerald's game.
How long has he been this way, I wonder?
How did he get like this?
It would suck if this character was out of shape and also had ED. It would just be an awful thing. So
it's dually depressing at this point. Yeah,
he had to make up with it by being incredibly in shape.
Yeah, he looks better than I ever have looked and probably ever will look, if I'm being honest with myself.
Yeah.
Good job, Bruce. But it also feels like a character choice too, because of course that character would be. He cares so much about physical appearance and status. Yeah, he's very invested in people's perception of him, and is manipulative and always working towards his own benefit, even if it's at the expense of his own wife's. As we, the very very brief moment we get with actual Gerald, it is incredibly selfish and it first feels like this mutual trip that they've gone on where they're going to try something different sexually, and they're on this getaway and cut off from all the things that would usually distract them and try to spice things up again. And you very quickly see this is 100% his idea, and he hasn't really honestly communicated what they're going to do. And they get 5 minutes into it, this sort of rough handcuff bondage stuff, and right away she's out because she knows that's not her thing, and she knows it's not going to help or save anything. All it's going to do is help and further inflate his own ego and his own kind of sadistic streak. And then you also see you almost can give them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, these are two people on two different pages. They just don't belong together. You almost give them the benefit of the doubt, and then you see in their exchange while she's handcuffed there and she's sort of told him to stop, that he's going to go ahead and try to force it too. Right. Which was super uncomfortable to watch. The fantasy, he's so committed to the fantasy, he doesn't care if it has to become reality in order to get it. And fuck, I forgot. There's so much stuff about this I forgot.
It's a rough first 30, 40 minutes. It's very rough.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's when you see that blood pooling at the foot of the bed too. It's like, damn, this is a horrible situation to be in. I can't imagine. But yeah,
and it's the kind of movie too where as you sit there and watch it, you try, people always try to figure out, okay, I would do this, I would do that, and I would be.
Right.
It's like it's when you try to figure out what would I do in that circumstance, like, and there just really is no good answer.
Oh yeah, no. To have it also, I not realized, I did not remember this at all until I rewatched it. But to have the way she gets out, which I guess if you guys are, we can go into that here. There's a really brutal scene in this movie. She's handcuffed to the bed. I'll explain it just for those who haven't seen it.
Go ahead.
If you want to watch this movie, I'm not going to tell you to click away from their show because I feel like it's not my place. But watch this movie. Watch this movie. So she's handcuffed to this bed, and she realizes that based on a past experience, blood before it congeals is slicker than oil. And she uses this glass. She breaks the glass to slice her wrist open and essentially like slide her entire hand through the handcuffs, and it degloves a lot of her skin. It's very gross. But to have that, I didn't realize that connected so clearly to her childhood, because with her trying to cover up for her father, and she clenches the glass, like that's genius. Like for it to a good horror movie and a good movie in general, the final conflict always overlaps with that personal conflict, and they did it just like that intersection is so perfect right there, I think. So that I totally forgotten about that detail, but it's a fucking nightmare of a scene, I gotta say.
Yeah, we talked about it on this show a few times. We're so desensitized, just being horror lovers. We've seen enough where, like, it's hard to get to us, and this scene just like it is nearly like I was watching this alone in the daylight, and I was still like biting my knuckle and like kind of just letting out audible growth. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like it's rough. It is rough.
It's impossible to watch it and stand still at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't. It's not possible.
And Evan, when you picked this movie, I remember, like, I could very vividly remember the message coming through, and I just immediately exhaling, just going, okay. Like I'm certainly never going to say no, especially because it's a great movie and I know it would be a good movie to talk about. But I was just like, man, I had really made peace with maybe never seeing Gerald's Game again, because I just don't know. It's hard to put yourself back in that position. It was the same thing, and Connor, you might not feel this, but like when I know people who just watch like Hereditary, again and again and again, and Midsommar, those are other movies where I'm like, man, those just take me on such a fucking trip that like I don't have the mental energy to engage with that on any given day.
Hereditary is dreadful.
Midsommar I can't watch like repeatedly, like some people who watch it like religiously. Hereditary I can do, but Midsommar I cannot.
Hereditary is more of like an emotional kind of dread than a physical one. Like it's to watch that if you're comfortable feeling like you want to die versus like you feel like you're physically dying. It's a different sensation. So I get that.
Yeah. Favorite goal in the chat. What's going on, Jessica? Thank you for watching. Always appreciate your support. Love you very much. This scene, and Jessica, this is probably the worst time for you to tune in because we are talking about the most graphic, violent scene. But I won't go too. I don't need to lay out the gritty details, because if you know what it is, you know what it is. But it is so well shot and so believable, and because it does have that emotional layer to it as well, where it's like, how would she even think? Like, who would think to even do that? Because like, I think the first thing you might think of is like, maybe I can like break my wrist or like dislocate something and pull like it does become clear eventually. It's like there's no way she's getting out of this without doing something really awful, or like maybe you think of you just cut your whole hand off, which would somehow be, at least as an audience member, somehow that wouldn't be as bad as what they eventually go with.
Oh yeah,
because like you see those movies, you see Saw, things like that. It's like dismemberment, like it's that it can even be silly and over the top at times, but like this is so particularly, I've never, and if a classic degloving scene in cinema, by all means, I can't think of any other. This might even be how I even learned the phrase degloving, but I can't think of any other example in film where I have seen this happen and I hate it.
No, for real.
As the kids say, it was the degloving for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there was a scene before this movie that I was like, okay, that's the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. Couldn't top it. Have y'all seen Bone Tomahawk before?
Oh, that's got one of those. Yeah.
Love Bone Tomahawk. There's a vivisection in that movie. Horrible. It's disgusting. It's painful to watch. I was like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. This movie put that to fucking shame. Like that is, it is so like I never look away ever, but I'm so tempted to in this movie. Because it's just it goes so long, like it's so drawn out and gross. Can't. It's horrible.
And it's so vivid. It's such a choice to stay with it and not cut away, because that would have been the easy thing to do, and probably still would have been effective because you would still hear it and you would hear what she is experiencing, and you would just know enough that it could still work. But it is definitely a choice to say, no, I'm going to hold in tight on this. I'm going to show it happen. I'm not going to cut away until it's over. And it's probably, if you timed it, it's probably realistically happening for maybe 10 seconds. But it feels like several minutes. Eternity. Yeah, you feel. And I actually, when I sat down, I really did genuinely consider closing my eyes during it, because I was like, I know when it happens. And the whole movie, I'm like, checking the runtime, I'm like, cool, I know we got like another 20 minutes before it happens. I'm like, I might close my eyes and just not do that again. But I said, you know what? Who would I be to host a horror movie podcast where we're going to talk about this movie? And I say, oh, I closed my eyes during that part. No, I was like, you gotta sit and suffer, kid. And that's
you would have been
running the gauntlet.
You would have been crucified on the show if you closed your eyes.
Yeah.
There's no going back.
There's not, and I'm glad I didn't. But fuck, it is intense. I mean, just seeing all the viscera and the ligaments and the
that's you. That's what did it for me is when it's the ligaments for me. It's it's like a shot when her hand is kind of like that, and it's rough. It's fucking rough.
And then they mercifully don't really go back to it after it's done.
Right,
you know,
that's true.
There's obviously a lot of blood, and you can see something's not right at their hand. But she gets out. She wraps it up in maxi pads and gets moving. And you don't really have to look at it anymore after that. They give you that mercy. But it's true. As Connor was saying, it really is not often that graphic violence affects me on such a intense level anymore. You really gotta. You having trouble there doing that? Well, lock to the chair, friend.
I got it.
Well, it is good that you got something made of glass there, just in case.
I put it on a shelf above you. What are you doing?
I've got
the authenticity.
Nice. I mean, it's. Of course, we were going to talk about that scene at length. It's probably the first thing anybody really, which is a disservice in a way because there's so much more to the film. But it's definitely that's what leaves the scar on your soul coming out of Gerald's game is that scene.
I will say the ending is. I'm curious what you guys think of the ending. It's controversial, but what do you guys think about the Moonlight Man being real? I have feelings about it that are. I'm not going to tell you what my feelings are yet because I'm curious what you guys think. Honest opinions.
What do you think, man on the floor there?
Whether he's real or not?
Or
how do you feel about him being real?
I think he's real. I mean, at the very beginning, I've never caught this till today when I watched it. When they're driving up to the cabin, radio is talking about graves being robbed.
Oh, I don't know if I realized that either.
Yeah,
but I'm saying, but like, do you like the idea, or do you like the fact that? Because I would say he's real, definitely, but like,
I like it. It just adds like an extra creep factor to like.
Sure.
This woman just went through this awful ordeal, and there's also this like weird, creepy dude just hanging out.
Yeah, it's I think it was controversial in the book that like people don't like a lot of Stephen King book endings apparently, but I think this was one of those ones that they think it kind of goes into out of left field, and I think it works really well. I didn't know how I felt about it the first time I saw it, but then the second time, like that is one of the most genuinely skin-crawling, terrifying things. Just the fact that this person was there and was watching her pretty much the entire time, and he was real, and that fucks me up. That hurts. Her. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, that's true.
Like I never really got that part. Like, why did this dude who, like, when they go into it, like, will pretty much go after anybody, no mercy whatsoever, but spared this woman. The whole thing reminded me a lot of Twin Peaks. Like, that character.
Well, that's
specifically was very Twin Peaks-esque.
That's Carl.
That's why, because it's the same.
He's the giant. He's this amazing character actor who not many people look like he does, right? So whenever you need that character, you call him. But even beyond that, it is the same actor. It is he is. I forget what the character from Twin Peaks. He's not the man from another place. That's the guy in the Black Lodge. I forget what the Giant's character's name actually is. But
I think they just call. I just remember calling them. I haven't finished Twin. I think I have like 3 episodes left, but I think they just call him the Giant.
Maybe just the Giant.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Even because obviously Twin Peaks is operating on a more supernatural, metaphysical, and also just for me to even try to say like I know what level it's operating on, I'm doing it a disservice because I don't.
Yeah.
But even still, his entrance to the movie, it does feel mystical. It does feel otherworldly, and I guess I'll be kind of the voice of dissonance because I also kind of forgot how this movie ended, and I still don't know if I like it. Which, like you said, Evan, that is a running theme often. Is people will love like the first 2.5 acts of a Stephen King story, and then the meme is always that he's not good at making endings, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily. I've not read all Stephen King books, but the ones I've read, I generally enjoy the ending quite a bit. Jesse Swift, what's going on, man? In the chat. Remember when the pandemic closed theaters a week before Quiet Place 2 was released? When's that coming out? Is that coming out soon?
That's May 28th, I believe.
Is it? That's not like one of those HBO Max releases as well.
No,
it's not going to be one of those.
Paramount Plus 30 days after release.
Okay, so it's coming out. It's coming down the mountain. Just we got to try not to
April or June probably.
Yeah, cool. We just gotta try not to end the world again prior to that, so we can see it.
Right.
We should have seen it like 3 times by now, which I think is exactly to his point. Is it though? So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But the Moonlight Man, I don't love. I maybe Evan, you might have some more insight onto what you like about the ending, because I don't really love that he ends up being real, because it does feel so separated from what the rest of the movie's about. I kind of like. I would even be fine with it being this like ambiguous thing of like, was he real? Like Connor, you were like, like, is he real? Is he not? I would even maybe like that more, and that I think that would even play to more of the Stephen King of it, where it has this potentially supernatural level, or maybe it doesn't if you don't like that. But because the movie, she overcomes the physical obstacle in the movie. She overcomes her emotional obstacle in the movie. And then it has this weird thing at the end where it's like, by the way, that weirdo in my house was real. And going to his trial, which is just, I get what they were trying to make him like an amalgam of all her trauma, like personified, I guess. But I felt like they were accomplishing her defeating, the demons of her childhood, the demons of her marriage, without having this weird bone collector hang out with her. It does feel so out of left field.
Yeah, and that gag about or not gag, but it's a gag in It Chapter 2. Believes Stephen King doesn't write good endings.
Yeah,
he was very hands-on with It Chapter 2, Andy Muschietti's It Chapter 2. He threw that into the movie.
He says it too, right? He's the guy.
He's like, there's a bunch of lines about like, it was good, but the ending sucked. There's so many lines about that, because he was like, you guys are constantly telling me my endings suck. I'm just going to throw it in this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It's
off topic, but I just want to throw that in there.
No, I get true. It's I think one of those, like you said, it's the trauma personified, but also I agree. I think the connective tissue to that theme between the Moonlight Man and that theme could have been a little stronger.
Yeah.
I think they could have. I think they do really great stuff, like his eyes, are like little eclipses or whatever. I think that shit like that is really neat detail. But I think mostly, I felt that it came out of left field the first time I saw it, because I was like, I didn't see him as that. I didn't see him as a reflection of the trauma. But then the second time, I kind of knew that was coming, so I was a little more prepared for it, I guess. But the visit to the courtroom also is weird and creepy. Like the fact he rips the zip tie so quickly and easily, that scared the shit out of me. But I love what she says. Like that, it's one of the last lines in the movie. It might be the last, but she's like, "You're so much smaller than I remember, or so much shorter than I remember," or something like that. I think it's a great idea, but it could have been a little more clear. I guess totally understand that too.
Yeah, I like that last line that she gives him, because I think it kind of shows that not only did she overcome her mental fears, she also overcame this physical fear. This very real giant who has robbed graves, mutilated dead bodies, and it escalated to actually killing people. And she told him, "You're a lot smaller than I remember," basically showing that she overcame that fear. She overcame everything, and she's on the right path now. So I thought it was a powerful line.
Yeah. Got Jeff Alterman in the chat. Gerald's Game is fucking brilliant, and Mike Flanagan is the modern horror master. I think we're all
agree.
Yeah,
we agree. We were definitely talking about that earlier in the show. Thanks for watching, by the way, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. It is. I think there's potential there. I agree with Devin. I think there's something there. I wish it just would have been a little tighter, because I just feel like she'd overcome a lot of those things before the Moonlight Man even becomes an obstacle at the very. It is just very. It feels like there's just something missing there, and that might be very true to the book. I do like his role in the film up until the very ending. His entrance to the movie is fucking terrifying.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because at that point, I think, at least for me, what you're thinking, what she's thinking is well, you're exhausted, you're dehydrated, you haven't had anything to eat, you're scared, and now you're hallucinating. Because it really does, it lingers on that dark corner he manifests in for just long enough without it being clear whether there's actually somebody there.
Sure.
It's the kind of thing you do as a kid when you wake up in the middle of the night and you had a bad dream and you think you're still in the dream, and you're like, I can see a guy in the corner. I can see a monster, right? I can see it clear as day, but your eyes haven't adjusted to the dark. And as it gets clearer, you're like, never mind, that's my chair, right? It's that accomplished in a movie. And then when he actually emerges, and again, he looks so crazy, you're like, well, that can't be real either. He's all mouth. First of all, he's huge, which the actor is actually huge. He actually,
sure.
I don't know if giantism is the right phrase for it, but he actually is very large. But then they've also got all these sort of prosthetics and things like that on him, effects. And then he's got a literal fucking bag of bones in his hand and a necklace made of ears. And to me, it feels like, is the man. This is the personification of death coming for, and that was enough for me. I didn't need a newspaper article at the end of the movie for it. You know what I mean?
I think even the way it ends too is a great capitalization on that, where she drops the wedding ring in his case. Yeah. I think that's she's putting her trauma behind her and everything. I think that's a good way to do that. But yeah, it's kind of weird that they kept it going at the same time. So I get where you're coming from as well.
And even that feels like a great you pay the pauper before you go back to the real world. He's going to go back off to the underworld with his trinket that you've given him, right? He's going to let you pass. And it's well, no, he's actually this weirdo who robs graves and is a necrophiliac that they arrested. It's just that's a very weird 3 minutes at the end. I'm kind of the mind who it just feels so strange, but I also appreciate what was being attempted there. And I imagine it probably was very much present in the book, just as we've been saying. That's the common criticism of Stephen King. People don't like his endings. It's a controversial one. Yeah, I do like the inclusion of that character in his role throughout, and just the visual of him, and also the threat. I love the idea of like the dog who's the physical threat in the room. Oh my god, he got free.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just a little degloving. I'm good.
I'm curious, was this the plan from the get-go, or did you get uncomfortable? I'm genuinely curious.
I mean, at some point I was going to get out of it. And then I remembered the movie, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
I can just
like,
rip the skin of my hand off and get out of this.
Yeah.
Now, unlike Mike Flanagan, you said I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm gonna get out of here, and next time you see me, this is the PG version of Gerald's Game. You're not gonna see any of that nonsense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the TV edit.
and maybe people just didn't smash that like button hard enough, and so now they missed out.
Yeah, they missed out on the real gore. Also, we would probably get banned off of Twitch, and we would lose our affiliate status. So I just did it off screen. Got up, bandaged myself up. I'm good.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Good. It looks good.
We always simulcast to the dark web, so that's okay. It's all right. If that's what happens, that's what happens.
Right. Guys, if you want the dark web exclusive cut of this episode, please.
Yeah, subscribe to our Patreon. It's only 17 Bitcoin.
Yeah, if you want the Tor link to Reely Scared, be sure to be a $10 patron. It's the only way you get all the best stuff, all the things that you don't get to see on the free version of the show. Gosh, where were we? Moonlight Man. Oh, I liked also the additional physical threat that he introduces to the film, because for such a long time it's the dog.
Yeah,
the dog who's in the room.
Sure.
And it's like that's the countdown, where it's like if you don't figure out how to get out of here, it's not enough that you will starve to death or just start having seizures from exhaustion.
Sure.
A dog will eat you.
No, and he's trying already, like he's going to.
You can't even rest, which I also forgot about that scene coming from the flashback to learning the dog's trying to eat her, when it cuts to the Moonlight Man licking her foot.
No, I'm going to tell you something. Okay, I meant to bring this up. I'm glad you mentioned that. Jesus fucking Christ. That was okay. I'm okay. Here's the thing. I have a weird thing with my feet. Like if I'm in a horror movie, I like to tuck my feet below me, or like I like to have them on the couch and stuff. I had my feet resting on the coffee table the first time I saw this. I was not expecting this. Why did they do that? This scared the shit out of me. I was just sitting with my feet on the coffee table, and then I hear that licking sound, and I'm like, oh, this is odd. And they cut to that shot, and I just like curled, like it's like my feet just like rolled back up into my body, and I was just like, I had to ball up on the couch. That's one of the most disturbing scenes for me. That was awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Ever since Hostel, when he gets his like Achilles tendon slice.
I'm horrible about Achilles too.
Yeah. Ever since then, I've been like a huge like if anything happens to the eyes or the feet, I can't do it.
Me also so in painful. Zombie movies and stuff, when people get bit like right here, that's like the worst, because it's like always like this arterial spray and shit. That's
like the Evil Dead remake. There's like a needle scene where she gets the needle in her eye and just pull it out, and I'm just like, oh god, eyes and feet I can't do.
Eyes and feet cannot do.
Yeah. Well, Taylor, what is your weak spot? Do you have a weak spot like that?
Well, this film certainly woke me up to my degloving phobia, which I feel like maybe is just part of being human. I don't know if there's anybody out there that's actively not worried about that. But even just when I read the phrase now, like if I see it in a news article or something, like the scene of the accident, she was degloved. I'm just like, fuck off, man. I can't do that.
You could have left that out. I didn't need to read that.
How often are people getting degloved?
More than never. More than never. I can tell you that much. I don't have to think about it. I go a long time without thinking about it, but when I do it literally does give me the shivers.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It happens every now and then.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
you're doing remarkably well for someone who just went through that too, by the way.
Yeah, these beers are kind of heavy, so kind of masking the pain.
It's like Civil War surgeon type stuff. You're powered through it with alcohol.
Yeah.
It do be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes.
As the kids say, it do be like that. It do be like that for me.
As far as like physical, I mean, eyes are obviously a thing. I feel like I've gotten better about eye parts in movies for some reason. I don't know what I just grew out of it. I don't know what happened there. For me, what always really freaks me out still, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago in our Mothman prophecies episode. For me, obviously I will be very upset if I'm dismembered in any context. But I think what really still will get me at night is just the idea of like being watched when I shouldn't be seen, that. That's still the idea of like something outside the window or even this, that was, I think, what my revulsion to when Moonlight Man first shows up is just that sort of baked in like animalistic instinct of like there's something in the room that's not meant to be there, and the alarm bells are going off because I can feel it. Like that's really what freaks me out. But also a good degloving will
that'll do it for you.
I'll say I didn't close my eyes during this watch, but I was like I was leaned back as far as possible like this, like arms crossed, like shoving my chin down into my chest, just like that was the noise of like just you brace for impact, and I was like, and I remember also thinking like, you know what? I bet it's not as bad as the version I'm making up in my head. I bet it's much worse than what it actually was.
Right.
No, for the viewers.
Oh my God! Why are you doing this?
Very unnecessary.
Oh, it's wonderful. We're gonna get flagged.
You actually took that in the bathroom while you were off the screen, right? That's you.
Yes, that is my hand. So if you want. If you want to know,
if you want the full HD picture, y'all, please be sure to go to their Patreon.
It's on our OnlyFans.
Oh yeah.
God, what the hell was I talking? Oh, so the whole thing with the dog, I just like that. Also, what was the initial physical threat of the film? Even that wakes up and goes, "Oh, I'm out of here," because something way scarier is coming down too. I like.
Sneeze start. I almost sneezed. It might come back. I'm sorry.
Do what you gotta do, man. You know what you're doing. Feel free to mute at your leisure if you need to. I won't even notice. I'll just ramble through it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We do it all the time. I love that quality to it, and but the stuff with the dog too. Like, it sucks that feeding a stray dog pays off in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
Only if you give him Kobe.
Yeah. That's $200 a portion. I don't know if you
Yeah. So
it looked good too, man. That was a good cut. That was a great cut.
Yeah. Which also, prior to the degloving, the only real like physical violence you get is dog taking chunks off of Gerald here and there.
Yep.
But even that is done so sparingly, but also in a way that isn't giving you the benefit of cutting away from it. It's like he's coming in, he's getting a bite, and you're gonna watch that because like if she sees it, that means you have to see it. Like
and the sound too, just hearing the
peeling and everything,
and the ripping. Oh my God,
horrible.
Yeah, it's absolutely dreadful. And just the way that like the blood sort of ages and accumulates on the floor and darkens, and the flies start to close in on Gerald's body.
Jeez.
That's the other element. I was like, man, it just must smell so nightmarish in there. They're not talking about that part either.
Sorry for the viewers who are eating, by the way.
And it sucks because, I at this moment don't have any kids.
Yeah.
And, when I get older, don't want to be put in a home. So if I die in my home, like the idea that my pets who I feed and I clean their shit, they're going to rip me to pieces.
Yep.
Like, you ungrateful bastards.
Sure.
Like, I gave you a $200 portion of meat, and you're gonna rip me apart?
They want the Connor meat.
Like, come on.
They want that juicy Connor meat.
Yeah. Are you making a Red Letter Media reference right now?
Yeah.
Yes. I was tempted. I was like, a juicy shack meat, but I don't know if they would say. I don't know if they would know what I'm saying.
Connor, do you think if you had kids, they would like you enough to not eat you if you died in the house?
My kids?
Yeah, they would just walk out. Right?
I don't like kids, so they would probably eat me. They would be like, oh, "Thank God this idiot is gone. Let's Cook them up.
Did y'all hear about that story? There's like a Wikipedia page for this woman for this reason. Like, she died alone in her apartment. She didn't have any friends or anything, and I think she was undiscovered for like 2 or 3 years.
Holy shit!
No one knew about it or any. Like, I forgot what the woman's name was, but this is a true story. I don't even know why someone did it. Like, why someone found her. It must have been the smell, but I don't know. I mean, she lived alone. Like,
or
I don't know.
Auto pay ran out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe like, not making payments on the house or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Or
Auto pay ran out after a few years. They were like, "Oh, she's not paying anymore."
I can't imagine it taking that long. Like, I mean, what it'd probably take like for someone to come looking for you. The movie does like a good job of. It's like a week or 10 days probably.
Yeah.
If you don't have that many connections.
And I love that scene where she's like breaking it down, like she's running it through her head because at this point we know that this is like her consciousness talking to her. Sure. So she's like, the grass is cut, so no gardener. The people who own this place, they said they were going to be gone till June.
Yeah.
And that was a few days ago. They're gone. And she's just breaking it down. I thought that was really smart.
Oh yeah,
like how she's finishing his sentences.
Yeah,
where he's basically Bruce Greenwood's character is like Gerald. I'll just call him Gerald. When Gerald he's almost like he's finding her situation almost funny, like the way he's describing it and everything. Like the part when it's in the foreground, like she has the glass and the camera's between her and the glass, and he's laughing at her. She's like, "What?" And he goes, That's like that's awesome. That's like it's like comically dark because of how fucked she is in this situation, like how bad this all is. But yeah, it's a good setup for that. For like no one is coming to find you. Like you have to do this on your own. It's cool.
It really does like cross its T's and dot its I's in that respect, where it's like, again, as you as the viewer can't help but put yourself in that position and go, okay, realistically, would it actually happen like this, or could I think of something to get me out? And they think of everything you're going to think of, all the way up to like, well, even if you just sit there and wait it out, it's like they're out there on this getaway, this sort of honeymoon do-over thing of like, oh yeah, he's arranged that nobody will come bother them, so they'll be completely isolated, and that's ends up being the last thing that she wants to happen. It's great. So it really adds to just how damn dire the whole thing is.
Oh yeah.
And you go, she's going to have to do something terrible to get out, or else she's absolutely going to die there. And when they find her, she'll have been dead for a long time too. Right. And he also has that chilling scene where he's just describing what it'll be like when they find her.
Oh my god,
the way her hands will have hung there, and she'll have already started to rot, and the dog will have eaten pieces of, and the way the coroner and the police will look at each other, and after the autopsy they'll they won't even really be that invested in how she died, because it'll be so gruesome it'll just be obvious anyway.
Yeah. What is it? He says like she died hard or something like that. Like,
this woman died hard.
That was a great performance scene too, because that goes on for like over a minute, just uncut, just him.
Yeah, a lot of monologues in this, because I mean it really does feel like a theater show where it's just like it's these three, and obviously you couldn't really do it on a stage because you'd have two Jessies, so it's the power of filmmaking in that way. But it really does just feel like the three of them in this bedroom, kind of on this revolving, spiteful circle they're going through, where even the other Jessie is not always the most helpful or encouraging. She's also mocking her for being in this position, and she's kind of the ideal, I think, of what Jessie wishes she was. Sure. And then Gerald sometimes is kind of on her side, it seems like he's helping her come to conclusions that she couldn't otherwise, but he's doing it in this very snarky, passive aggressive, not even passive, aggressive way, while also being the new sort of manifestation of what she's learned Gerald truly. It's all the worst parts of Gerald that she was willing to ignore for years. Now this is her seeing him honestly for the first time, and it's not even really him; it's the ghost of him, essentially.
It's like it's split too. Like you said, there's half of it is like he's being helpful, and then the other half is like you see the darkness in him too, because I think it's her kind of becoming more clear on her perception of him in general. Like she has this kind of love-hate thing with him, where she thinks she deserves someone like him, and so she finds endearing qualities about him, and she kind of just like pushes away the rest and everything too. So it's both, I think, in that regard. So it's kind of cool that the way he is. I like the Gerald, the posthumous ghost Gerald, much more than the regular Gerald.
Yeah.
Even when he first gets up, it's so great because there's no doubt at this point that he could be dead. We've seen the blood pool, and he gets up after the dog takes a chunk of his arm off, and he just stands right up, and he's like dusting himself off, and he's like, "Holy shit, what the hell?" And she's like, her brain is breaking, and she's laughing. She's so relieved, and he finally just leans in and says, "Well, you're losing your mind." Like,
he's like, "You fucking idiot! What do you think this is?" Like,
yeah, and he loves that it's happening. Like, he loves to be the one to deliver that news to her. Yeah. He's taking all this weird satisfaction and being like, "Well, I died for this, so it's going to be a blast to watch you run through the gauntlet at this point." Right. But they do a great job. Everything's built into the script on this, like her willingness to give him the benefit of the doubt all through their marriage. They go through all these specific scenes and conversations they've had, and it's like, well, she hears that horrible joke he tells the people at work, and she goes, "Well, I ignored it because I knew that wasn't really you." And he's like, "I know." Or is that really me, and that you were telling yourself that it couldn't be me to make yourself feel better? Like all those great interactions, and then you find why her brain is even wired that way. Goes all the way back to her childhood and the abuse she suffered as a kid. Now these scenes, always tough. As soon as I think you introduce the idea of framing childhood abuse, especially sexual abuse, it's like this is, you got to really, really do it tasteful. And it's like, how do you even begin? How do you frame something like that, include it in a story in a way where it doesn't feel, like exploitation, or inconsiderate to people who have actually had to experience and struggle and suffer through those kinds of things. Really, again, not an enviable position for me.
No,
like as a person invested in story, I don't even know if I would ever have the courage to try to put that in a story, just for how disrespectful or just ignorant it can seem. And Stephen King is a guy who has a lot of stuff like that in it. I mean, the original It, right, Connor? Like, that's the novel. It's famous for that. And they some of it makes it into the movies, but even still not quite as deep as the books go. Like, he's, you always get the sense that Stephen King's working some stuff out in his literature. A whole wide variety of things he's working out in his work. Flanagan finds a really, I think, smart way to not just film it and incorporate it in the rest of the film, but to really show respect to the characters and what's happening there, to where it doesn't feel egregious, in the way that the gloving scene is so intense, and it's like, fuck you, you're gonna live in this moment.
Right.
The stuff with her and her father out on the lake, he doesn't do that. It's not, he doesn't give you the benefit of like, well, I'm going to cut off right before it happens, and you'll just know. I'll infer what happened. Right. He still spells out explicitly, but I think keeps the focus on Jesse in a way where it's like you as a viewer are experiencing it, but it's more so about her and what that does to a person. I could, and by all means disagree, but I feel like it's treated as respectfully as you could when doing something so horrific and tough in your story.
Yeah. It's the way they handle it. They focus more on the aftermath, I think, which is great. Jesse's external self tells her, she's like, that's not even the worst thing he did to you. And then it shows that scene in full manipulative detail. Like, it shows the way the pulling of the strings and everything. Like, it's beautifully crafted, as horrible as that sounds. It's just like, it's painful to watch. And in a lot of ways, even more painful than the other scene, just because it's more explicitly focusing on what's actually happening. But they do it very tastefully. They do it all very respectfully, to the point where you feel the pain of it without it feeling like exploitation too. It works. It works very well.
Yeah, I thought the conversation that happens after way more disturbing, but like it's not like off-putting or like exploitive, like you said. It's just very disturbing because like it is like kind of the worst part, because like he's like admitting it and then is like, but we're gonna have to tell her, and then she's begging him not to, and it's like just so manipulative.
It's so gross. It's so great though. It's like
so like heart-wrenching. It's horrible, but it's such a powerful scene.
Oh yeah.
Because right before, like you said, he said that, or she said to herself, like, that's not even the worst part about it. It's what happened after. And then we see that, and it's like, wow, that is like the mental gymnastics is just terrible.
It's masterful, as bad as that sounds. He's a master manipulator. It's upsetting.
Yeah. Watching him like walk her to those conclusions and let her think that they're her own ideas.
Yeah.
So scary and manipulative, and he's such a fucking worm right from the start. You really do kind of get the idea of where the story's going before you even get close to it.
Oh yeah.
As soon as the flashbacks begin, you just figure out it from the first bit of dialogue they share, which is like, oh man, I know where this is going, and I'm really scared to see where it ends. And
I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, not Henry.
And that scene that they have on the bench is very horrifying. Also, the touch of the eclipse makes it feel like so almost apocalyptic. Right?
Yeah.
It's scary looking.
Yeah, it does put it on that verge of almost feeling supernatural again, where it's like, did the sky truly turn red, or is that just a part of her oppressed memory? It's even more nightmarish trying to remember it, but it is an imagery, a visual touch that I think adds so much to the scene, and then comes back throughout the film, like you said, the eclipse showing in the Moonlight Man's eyes, and then almost having that sort of pocket dimension where she visits her childhood self. It's like that version of her's always on that bench under the eclipse. Like that's until she gets through her trauma, that little girl's always going to exist in her head somewhere. Those flashback scenes, obviously, again, the violent scenes are what I think will stick out the most. But as far as just real dread and anxiety, I think getting back to those scenes, it was a real surprise for me how effective they were.
Oh yeah.
And how scary they are, but then using them as a place for growth for that character, and her eventually finding strength in those moments, and realizing in a way, in sort of a domino way, how she treated those moments and how she ultimately survived those moments is also going to be what gives her the strength to survive this moment. Yeah, which is now this almost possible physical task. And the touch of the breaking the glass, it is almost, again, it's like almost who would think of to do that.
Sure.
And it is so dire that you'd say, well, shit, I guess I'm going to have to go on and deglove myself. Like,
like it's going to fucking suck to get over any kind of trauma. And this is like the physical version of that. It's, the incorporation of that idea too with the, I have an Applebee's gift card in my hand. I don't know why. I'm just
if we hit
that down.
500 likes, we're giving it away.
Yeah, nice. No, you're not taking my Applebee's card. No, no. The idea that like she has specifically broken the glass, because for those of you who don't know, again, watch the movie, but I'm going to explain it. She is so caught up in the moment because her father is at the dinner table trying to act like nothing happened, and he's like, "Wasn't it such a great day?" And she clenches the glass so tight that she breaks it, and the blood is there, and like they clean the wound and everything. Perfect transition into that next scene too. It's good storytelling. Like I said, it's I love that moment very much, even though it leads to a very painful one to watch.
But getting through that, emotional, mental milestone, and finally being honest about it, because you can get the sense that she hasn't been honest about it the rest of her life. She had to bury that as a way to cope with it, and that's by her father's design too. He obviously instills that in her and convinces her the only way that life can ever work for your family is you have to hide it forever. And it seems that Gerald, he's a dream Gerald, but even he's like, wait, what happened? I don't know about
Right.
Even her version of him is also like, I don't understand. So her confronting it and, no longer like realizing that, it wasn't her fault and that shouldn't be her burden to bear.
Sure.
And that it was the result of a very sick man taking advantage of her.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's the release that makes her go, okay, I got to do what's necessary to survive.
Yeah.
And I've got to do something. So, it's seriously, it's the last thing on the list you think of. It's like, well, I'm going to take the old glove off, right? There's
the gloves are coming off.
Yeah. There's just nothing worse than that. And, the level of desperation and anguish you'd have to reach to get to that point is just, you go on that journey with her. So where it starts happening, you're like, yeah, well, it's this or it's death. And, she found enough of a desire to survive and continue to do something that would be unimaginable for a lot of people, right? Like, I'm sure a lot of people might not find the courage to do something so horrifying, even in their most desperate, trapped animal moment.
Sure.
But she finds it. And so it's a very tough scene to watch. Oh, yeah. But once she gets out of it and like the catharsis and realization that she's free, that there's a lot of like tension that comes out of the room when she wraps it up and she's getting the keys and she gets out and you're like, oh my God, she's actually like, as horrifying as it was, you're like, she's going to make it.
She did it. Yeah.
It's just like, wow. It feels so triumphant at the same time. And then she has to pass the Moonlight Man on the way out and she gets out. And I felt like, I did feel like you could cut this movie off like right when she gets out of the car and the flashlights hit her. You could go credits, I feel like almost. Sure. And you still accomplish everything that you do, even with the last couple of minutes. But even with the ending notwithstanding, and it sounds like you guys liked it a little more than I did, that journey you take with the character is just so strong.
Oh, yeah.
In what could have otherwise just been like this, direct to streaming little gore movie, right? Like, could have been nothing to reconsider. Could have been another dime a dozen Stephen King adaptation. Which we're in like the renaissance of King adaptations now.
Yeah.
Between the It movies and this, and Flanagan's got something else coming. I remember we talked. He's got another Stephen King thing coming out too. I forget which book it is. I'll have to pull it up, but there's just sort of a class. I don't know if that's the right word. If classy is the right word, but there's a quality to this that I think in the hands of a different filmmaker could have been absent. And I'm very grateful that Mike Flanagan's the one who made it also feels like he's calling a shot after this, because this is the first one, right? It's this, and then Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
And then I can't find the title of the other one he's doing. I remember we talked about it on the show before, but he's doing another.
He did. I thought there was one more he already did too. Wasn't there? Was there not? Am I going nuts? I don't know if there was or not.
I was kind of thinking there was too. So, I'm just seeing Gerald's Game, Dr. Sleep, and that's when he gets into the Hill House and Bly Manor of it.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of 1912? That wasn't.
I don't know if I am thinking of that or not, because I don't know who did that one either, but I don't think I ever saw that either.
That one's good. But yeah, I'm glad that Mike Flanagan is like the guy who is like, yeah, I'll do Stephen King, and it's going to be fantastic, because it, we've already talked about it, but it's proven hard to do Stephen King good.
That's true. And
we've still seen it even during the Renaissance.
Yeah.
You get your Dark Tower. You get your whatever. You get
New Pet Cemetery.
I like the New Pet Cemetery. But
I liked it okay too. A lot of people didn't though.
But yeah, that's another example of like, some things might rub the audience the wrong way, but Mike Flanagan finds what works and does it masterfully, and I want to see more from him, original and Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
If he goes back and forth between like, here's a Stephen King, here's an original, I'll be happy my whole entire life.
Sure. Just keep Mike Flanagan on some kind of life support system.
Yeah.
Drain his life until he's like 250 or something.
Yeah.
Let him live.
Yeah, he's become one of those kind of like, it doesn't happen often, but like a horror movie blockbuster type guy. Like the only other one I can really think of right now off the top of my head is like James Wan, who's
James Wan probably
who has the same qualities I think of finding a way to craft the story while still making it scary and having good scares. We talked about this a lot on our Conjuring episode, but finding good scares, but also making like conceivably dimensional characters that you care about in the middle of it. So you're more invested and it's not, so forgettable where it's like, oh, I remember the time the monster jumped out, but I don't think of the protagonist that much. It's like and it's the same thing with Flanagan. He just really finds the heart of it, which I think a lot of times goes ignored in a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'll sign up for everything this guy makes. I do hope he does get to do some more original stuff too, just because I'd be curious to see what it looks like.
Hush was original, right? Am I wrong? Or was that like a short story or something?
Yeah, that was original. Oculus is original. You could argue Ouija, Origin of Evil is original because, it was based off of a horrible movie. Yeah. But it was a new story, got away from that, and he kind of made it his own. Mm-hmm. And that's like another weird thing, like this horrible first movie, and he makes a sequel to it, and it's like, I think the first one has like an 8%, and this one, his sequel was like an 80%.
Wow.
And it's just so good, so scary, and so beautiful. Focusing on the characters, and then you have some terrific scares. That's hard to do, to make a sequel of a terrible movie and make it so good.
It's very true. It's and I also, going into Gerald's Game, I held off on it for a while because I thought it was going to be kind of one of those shittier, like cash grab kind of horror movies that come out today, with less heart. But watch it, give this movie a chance. It's a really good one. Instant classic, in my opinion.
Yeah. And obviously be warned, brace yourself for the more graphic violence. Even if it's not your thing, it is used sparingly enough, that it's a build-up. It's a build-up, and you could conceivably telegraph it enough to close your eyes if you needed to. But
but it does not drop out of the StreamYard to spare you.
No,
it shows you.
It's going to show you whether you like it or not. So buckle up. And by the same token, I'm glad that I had this opportunity to watch it again, because I really probably would have gone off and just said, nope, I know what that movie does to me.
Yeah.
I know Jessica would never suggest watching it on her own. So I was like, I'm probably going to live just fine, not having to confront the degloving ever again in my life.
Right.
But no, not with the gold leader flying in the skies here. He brought us back.
When I ask you to, you will watch Gerald's Game.
Yeah, and we did. And I'm grateful for it because this absolutely does deserve the revisit.
You texted me as soon as he decided on Gerald's Game. You were like, Evan chose Gerald's Game.
And I also
didn't think I was ever going to have to revisit this. But that's his choice.
Yeah, and I held it off till last night, by the way, too. I usually will watch it like 2 times in the week prior, like whatever we're talking about, to kind of get a good feel for it. I was like, it's going to be one. It's going to be a one and done. I'm going to do it the night before, so it's fresh, but I just don't know that I have the capacity to see it 2 times this week.
Sure.
Because it's a heavy goddamn movie, but it's a great movie, and it absolutely deserves a chance and the attention if you haven't seen it before. Degloving and all.
Yes.
And everybody has Netflix. And so if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Just watch it.
Go get it. It's right there. It's right there.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Was there anything on Gerald's Game we felt like we didn't get to that we wanted to mention tonight?
Not for me personally. I think I touched all the bases for me. But what about you two? Anything?
No, I think we've hit all the notes.
I think we fucking nailed it.
We
got it.
Loved the whole thing.
This is one. Nice.
I'll just leave it off because I don't know if I said it enough. Carla Gugino is just goddamn amazing.
A powerhouse.
Yes.
Amazing.
You look at her even in like the Spy Kids trilogy. She's fucking outstanding. It's like, she's great. I love her.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
A legend. If even if you're not a horror fan, just watch that for the performance alone.
And who played her mom? Because she's fantastic as well.
Oh, that's Kate Siegel. That's
Kate Siegel. Yeah, she's in all of his stuff. She's great in Hush.
Yeah,
great in
Hill House.
Hill House, and
Yes,
she was in Blind Manor as well. She's great in everything too.
I think
just
are
all
they?
Mike Flanagan regulars.
They're married.
Yeah, they're married.
They're married. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is a fucking couple right there, man.
Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like such a good couple.
Yeah.
Like, incredible actress, and then also like an incredible director.
As the kids say, couple goals.
Oh my god. I was like, where are you going with this? Jeez.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, we're starting to wind down here on the episode, and because it is the last episode of the month, that means it is about damn time we announce what we're doing next month. Our
As
April,
the kids say, bust it.
Bust
Gerald's
it out.
game every week, guys.
Our April Sling calendar. Here it comes. We got a good one for y'all. Starting off next week. It's April 1st, next Thursday. We're having on Davis Harmon, also known as Davis the Railway Cat, over on TikTok. Huge horror movie and B-movie fan, coming on to discuss Tourist Trap. That's available on Tubi for free, also on Shudder and on VOD. I've never seen this movie before, but I watched the trailer, and this looks freaky.
Yeah.
This
is going to be a fun one to talk about because it earned a PG rating, and we'll end up talking about that on the show. But this is going to be a fun one to talk about for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. I don't know anything about Tourist Trap, so I'm looking forward to jumping in on that one. Looks freaky. April 8th, the following week, we're going to have friend of the show, never been on this show, but friend of the show.
It's about time.
About damn time. We're going to have our man Cody House join us. He got game himself from RTS. He's coming on to talk about The Lighthouse. What a massive, massive movie. One of the great Robert Eggers films, available on Prime Video, streaming there now, and of course VOD. Cannot wait. Oh my God, that one's going to be just debauchery all night.
I'm going to have to plan something special for that one.
Yeah. The Lighthouse is going to be a lot of fun, and I've not revisited that one yet, so I'm looking forward to the
I haven't either.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
That one's going to be a blast. Speaking of blasts, oh my goodness, April 15th. I am looking forward to this one. I don't even know what kind of episode this is going to be. April 15th, we're going to be joined by members of the George Lucas Talk Show. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of the George Lucas Talk Show, and we'll be discussing Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you've not seen George Lucas Talk Show, it is a Twitch show every Sunday over on Planet Scum that features comedian Connor Ratliff, comedian, podcaster, actor Griffin Newman, and producer Patrick Kotnar. I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I am thrilled that they'll be joining us to talk about this film. It's going to be outrageous. That's all I can say. Speaking of people I'm a fan of, April 22nd, we're going to have writer, author Monica Bonney join us. You might also know her on Instagram as Morality and Horror. Huge literature and horror fan, writer of novella The Bell Chime, as well as Vanilla, which just came out. Those books are available now. We're going to be talking about Let the Right One In.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, I haven't watched this in a really long time. And I love this film. I love the book. I believe she's also reading the book in preparation for this because she hasn't seen this movie before. So she's going in blind. That's kind of a different angle for us on this show. That's just available to watch.
Rare movies where the sequel is just as good as the original. Or not the sequel, but the remake. Sorry.
The remake, yeah, the Matt Reeves flick, which I've not seen, so maybe I'll also watch that.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Let the Right One In. That's just ready for you over on Hulu and, of course, VOD. Going to be very excited. Can't wait to talk to her. It's going to be a great guest. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, April 29th, What Real Entertainment's own Chris Anthony Lopez, the personality of this channel, co-host of Spin from the Reel and Wrestle Reel. Chris Anthony Lopez, famously not a horror movie guy, joining us to talk about Evil Dead 2.
Finally, we're talking Evil Dead. Finally.
Yeah. Classic.
Your favorite horror movie series. I'm super curious to figure out how he came to this movie and why this is the one he picked, because he's famously not a horror movie guy. Chris Anthony Lopez joining us. You can catch that on Cinemax, of all places. Cinemax, if you got one of those. or you can rent it, or you probably got a DVD on the shelf with it already. Evil Dead 2, the second one, exact. So, oh my God, we've got hell of a schedule coming up here. 5 Thursdays in April. What a month it's going to be. Going to be an absolute blast. So many great guests, so many great films. Going to be a fun month. And this has been a great month too. I can't believe it's already April. Oh my God.
Wow. Time flies, as the kids say.
Yeah.
When you're having fun.
I feel like I measure like my weeks by Really Scared episodes at this point. Like that's kind of the tent pole that like I figure out how time's moving. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe we're already to April. What the fuck is happening? Like,
wow.
I feel like just yesterday I was so excited to get Video Drew on the show, and now it's April. What is going on? But we're having a great time doing this show, and by that token, Evan, thank you so much for coming on for this episode.
Absolutely. Anytime I can talk about skin crawling horror movies, I'll be down. So thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it. It's been a blast. It's been great.
It's been awesome, man. And you're always welcome on, even if you pick movies that make me, of all people, very uncomfortable.
Okay, cool. I'm coming on every episode next month, too. So
beautiful.
Scrap your entire schedule. It's me.
A new third host just happened.
Yeah. Only one.
Evan, I'll leave the honors to you because otherwise I'll screw it up. Where can all the good ghouls and goblins out there find you?
Nowhere. No. I am, like I said, I have a podcast. It's more like a video thing right now. It's going to go to audio eventually. Nobody's watching anyway on Facebook. Just look that up. You'll find it. It's there. I also have a cartoon that I'm working on the 6th episode for. Cartoon has got a weird name. It's called Taxi Service. It's like service, but with a weird SERV-ITS. It's weird. It's hard to explain. Go look that up too. Me and this other guy make that show. Story Room on YouTube. Look up all my films there. I have a bunch of random shit that I've made. So yeah, just look me up. You see my Twitter right there as well. I post everything there too. So enjoy my work because nobody else does. Yeah, that's me. That's me. Find me.
They'll enjoy it. And I'll get obviously all the links in the description to make it real quick and easy for you to click that and enjoy all that gold leader up in your life. This has been a blast. Thank you again, Evan, for joining us. Thank you all the ghouls and goblins at home for watching, whether you did it live after the fact or if you're listening along on your favorite podcast service. Kind of breathe love if I see you got something to say.
As the kids say, stay spooky.
Oh my God. Yes.
Stay